From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Russ Riesinger. White House negotiators say they are not optimistic a big deal can be struck as they continue negotiations tonight with Democratic leaders on a COVID relief bill. This, as a new report shows, the U.S. economy plunged at a record pace for the second quarter. Skylar Henry is at the White House with more.
America grieves for all of the 150,000 Americans.
President Trump sounded a somber tone at the beginning of his coronavirus briefing. He also partially walked back his controversial tweet suggesting a delay of the November 3rd election.
Do I want to see a date change? No, but I don't want to see a crooked election.
Earlier, the president joined Dr. Anthony Fauci and other health officials at the Red Cross in Washington to call on coronavirus survivors to donate blood plasma for treatment and research.
If you've had the virus, if you donate, it would be a terrific thing.
The White House and congressional Democrats say they are still far apart on a Phase 4 coronavirus relief bill, despite dire economic news this week.
The U.S. economy plunged a record-breaking 32.9% in the second quarter. And for the second week in a row, unemployment numbers are on the rise, with 1.4 million people filing for new benefits.
We've had enough rope-a-dope. We've had enough empty talk. It's time to go on the record.
At this great moment of terrible trouble in our country, our Republican friends are paralyzed, and when they want to do something, it's a stunt.
The Senate adjourned for the week Thursday, with millions of Americans set to lose their extra $600 weekly enhanced unemployment benefits Friday. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
Utah Senator Mitt Romney and other lawmakers say they are working on separate proposals to temporarily extend the enhanced unemployment benefits. Well, energy consumption in the United States hit a 30-year low back in April. According to the Energy Information Administration, the historic downturn is the result of a drastic reduction in energy demand, all due to the coronavirus pandemic. Case in point, the nearby oil patch of the Williston Basin, where July has been a month to reckon with. MTN's Jay Cohn has more.
Ron Ness heads the North Dakota Petroleum Council. The trade association represents more than 650 companies doing business in the Bakken, from oil service companies to pipelines to producers. This is the place to find out what's really happening.
Productivity in the Bakken had gotten to the point where I think it was one of the best places to put your dollar, if not the best place in the country.
All of that, though, changed this past winter when, amidst an international oil price war, the coronavirus pandemic slammed the brakes on the world's economy. Suddenly, oil production outpaced its demand.
That devastating April 15th day, which historically used to be tax day, now I think we'll remember it as the day that oil went negative, negative $37 on April 15th.
Earlier this month, the state of North Dakota reported a 30% drop in its oil production.
Industry listened to what the market told it on April 15th, and it was like, stop producing oil. There's no place for this oil to go.
As for what's coming next, Ness admits after what we've seen so far in 2020, he has no idea. But with oil now hovering around $40 a barrel, the Bakken's sweet spot is within reach.
It means to me that in a no COVID world, we would have oil prices back in that $55 plus range, which is really the price that I think it's going to take to move some money back into the Bakken. We need about $20 million a day of capital investment to run full throttle Bakken. Just wow. Think about that. $20 million a day to capitalize 55 drilling rigs, 25 completion crews, 55,000 employees across the Bakken. And that goes well into Billings, into Sydney, into Glendive, into Baker, Glasgow, all the way across Montana. This is not just the Williston Basin encompasses multi-states.
As you can see, the pull of the Bakken is huge. As goes the Bakken, so goes our local economy. But what separates this downturn from previous ones is the pandemic and the cloud it has cast over world energy demand. In Billings, I'm Jay Cohn reporting for MTN News.
All right, thanks, Jay. As part of the Bakken Restart program, North Dakota is using more than $30 million of its CARES Act dollars to help plug and reclaim more than 400 oil wells that were orphaned during the pandemic. The program is designed to help retain as many oil sector jobs as possible. Democratic gubernatorial candidate Mike Cooney released his economic plan for the state today. It includes programs that he says will help workers, businesses, and Montana communities recover from the economic shock of the coronavirus pandemic. Cooney unveiled the plan at a news conference in Missoula, along with local businesswoman Whitney Williams, whom he defeated in the Democratic primary for governor. Williams praised Cooney's plan as one that would boost workers, families, and businesses. It includes a proposal to require companies getting state and other public contracts to hire at least 75% of their workers from Montana. It also calls for expansion of rural broadband, more funding to increase child care, and training for workers in renewable energy. Republican gubernatorial candidate Greg Gianforte released his economic blueprint 2 weeks ago and said he wants less government to clear the way for the private sector to grow. Cooney said he believes the government can play a crucial role in helping the economy bounce back from tough economic times.
And for us to say government does not have a role to play, I think is just wrong-headed, because government can very well, and there's a long record of government being a good partner when it comes to working with private sector, working with the federal government, working with other partners in order to grow and expand the economy. And as governor, I'm going to be doing that.
Cooney is Montana's current lieutenant governor. Well, late this evening, we have learned that yet another person has died from the coronavirus in Bighorn County, the fourth in just the last 24 hours, and the ninth person to pass away there so far. Two women in their 70s and a man in his 60s died today, and another man in his 60s died last night. The cases are not connected, according to the county public information officer, and came from separate clusters. Bighorn County is currently approaching 200 active cases. Yesterday, Governor Bullock named Bighorn and Yellowstone counties as two of the 9 COVID hotspots where additional measures may soon need to be taken. Meanwhile, the state of Montana reports an additional 138 confirmed cases of COVID today. 34 of those cases came from Yellowstone County. There are now more than 3,800 positive cases of COVID in Montana. 58 people have died. 69 people remain hospitalized, and to date, more than 2,300 Montana residents have recovered from the virus. An outbreak in Big Sky responsible for some of the high numbers lately. More than 100 construction workers tested positive at the Montage Big Sky Luxury Resort during this past month. The contractor for that project, Suffolk Construction, spoke with MTN and said the virus was spread through asymptomatic workers who did not have fevers or show any signs of being positive. The company credits surveillance testing for identifying the positive cases and says that it will continue to do other testing to prevent the virus from infecting more workers.
We originally did surveillance testing just to ensure that everybody on the job site didn't have COVID, and then we are continuing to do what we call smart testing. And smart testing is testing of a random select of 30% of the population on a weekly basis up here on the job site.
And Suffolk says they have done 885 tests in total on that job site. All right, turning to Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire now. Bob, a new drought monitor released this afternoon. How's it looking?
Well, a lot of the western half of the country is getting pretty dry out there, and we're starting to see extremely worse drought conditions. Let me show you. We zoom on down here towards the Four Corners states. Take a look at that. There's Colorado, New Mexico. All that area in red shows extreme drought conditions in that area, even in the parts of Utah, parts of Oklahoma and New Mexico, and even parts of the Texas Panhandle, all showing new kinds of drought and severe drought. Now let's go up to the north. Even in central Wyoming, we have extreme drought there, but when it comes to Montana, we had a lot of snow in the western mountains this year, so right now they're not experiencing any drought, but in the southwest corner of the state, we have some moderate drought and around that unusually dry conditions. Here in the Billings area, even though we're about an inch shy of where we need to be for this time of year, we're still not showing any signs of drought, but to the east and southeast of us, we have some moderate to severe drought in those areas. We'll have the rest of your weekend forecast, though, coming up in a few more minutes.
All right, thank you, Bob. A small plane crash under investigation in Madison County tonight. That plane went down in mountainous terrain this morning. It was headed to Jackson, Wyoming from Helena. A passenger in the plane was able to get a call out about 10:45, and a grounds crew found that plane about 4 hours later. According to the FAA, 3 people were on board the plane. We haven't confirmed injuries, but a helicopter was used to take victims from the scene. Well, according to the group Operation Underground Railroad, about 2 million children are captive in sex trafficking around the world. Today is World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, and about 100 people came out to the Rise Up for Children demonstration in March in Billings. Organizers say COVID-19 and stay-at-home orders have led to an increase in trafficking because children are spending more time on the internet. Operation Underground Railroad works with police and other government agencies to help find children in these very dangerous situations. After getting rescued, these children often face difficult challenges recovering.
The sexual trauma lasts all throughout their lives, and especially if child exploitation materials made for them and disseminated on the internet, it's a trauma that keeps coming and it never ends. There are many things that we can argue about, but the one thing that we can all get together behind is protecting children. We can all get behind that.
Operation Underground Railroad started in 2013. Still ahead on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2, help may soon be on the way for Montanans in need of health insurance. We'll deliver that news coming up next. And in sports, the Bobcats losing an opponent might seem like bad news, but in this case, there may be a silver lining. Scott will explain coming up in just a bit.